Welcome to Transcontinental Times 360 Degrees live show. I am very glad to introduce you to an international author, journalist, and a popular columnist, Vani Kaushal. Welcome, Vani, to 360 Degree to Transcontinental Times.
Thank you, Sahra. I'm so excited and so thrilled to for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you for being with us today. We are very happy that you are with us today. And yeah, let's start. Yes, talking a little bit about how were your beginnings in writing.
I started my career in 2002. I started as a business journalist. But what happened was that I used to get like just 300 or 400 words of writing space in a newspaper. And I wasn't somehow contented with doing that because, number one, it used much less of my creativity and it was all based on facts and numbers. So I said, okay. So that point of time, around 2004, I said, I started experimenting with writing a full length novel, but nothing sort of worked out. And I didn't quite realize that I needed to forget my old rules of reporting, the like business
Yeah.
reporting to novel. You can't write a novel the way you write a news story. So that's when, and somehow things just didn't work out initially. I went to London, and that's where the writing bug bit me again. And I started my journey from there, wrote my first novel in London, and then I wrote my second one, and now this is my third one. So I have
Yeah.
I have dabbled across both fiction and non-fiction. But yeah, it's been an exciting journey so far. But started, as a business journalist.
Yeah. We can see in your background that you have your third book, Seconds Later. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about your new novel.
Seconds later is I started writing it in 2017, and the story came to me partly from my own experiences. I wanted to be famous, as everybody wants to be famous when they're growing up and all that. And they never quite realize that fame has this other side to it, which is not very nice, because the moment my first book came out, people started tagging me on their obscene posts on Instagram and Facebook, and
Mhm.
it was very new for me. So the fear was very raw, and I just tapped into that fear, like, what is this, what is happening around me, and what is this? I couldn't take that change, and that part of fame that came, and I think the birth of the story happened from there. And in it, I have explored the theme of fame through the eyes of a young TV talk show host. All she's thought about all her life is that she wants to be famous, and then suddenly she realizes that it's not so lovely as it seems. Things can get very difficult when you're famous, and that's how all that the story is all about. So it's a romantic thriller, or you can classify it as crime fiction, whatever suits you. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a little bit about your personal life. What inspired you to write
Yes.
this book? Yeah, I think it's difficult sometimes to divide, no, the personal life of writing. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
I know. And
yeah.
also, you have your fans, sometimes you're not as women, it's very hard for us to keep to have very strong boundaries around us. And sometimes, fans also tend to cross those boundaries. And I think the protagonist of my novel, she realizes it, because she can see that some of her fans are crossing the limits. But then, when you are at that position, what can you really do about it? You have to take it in your stride. So that's what the
Yeah,
novel.
yeah. You told us your last book is a romantic thriller. Which is
Mhm.
your preferred genre when you are writing?
When I'm writing, I think I don't pretty much look at the genre of the thing as much as I am concerned, like the whole treatment of the story. So tomorrow, if I have to write fantasy, I really wouldn't shy away from it. If there's a good idea, well, I would write about it. But if it has to challenge me enough. And I think whatever genre we have are just mere classifications for us. You want your book to be placed. So my first one was a romantic comedy. This one is a romantic thriller. In the middle, I have written non-fiction, and my next one is also non-fiction. So I think it just depends on what sort of impulse I have at the moment and where it is driving me. If tomorrow I want to write something like which is paranormal, I would love to do that. So I get equally excited by everything as long as the idea keeps me going. Idea has to be strong enough. It's like that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Do you plan the stories in detail before you write them, or do you let them come up as you go?
So Sarah, I have several ideas during the day, and I pick something that really excites me and something that I know I will be able to pan out across 200, 300 odd pages, because that's the length of a full length novel. But as far as putting it down in the form of a storyboard is concerned, I don't do that. But in my mind, I go by my gut feeling, and I know exactly how many chapters I will have, what all characters I will have. I have a fair idea of what's going to happen. But the specifics, I don't get into that, and I just let it flow. Like when I sit on my writing desk every day, I just let that energy flow and I let it guide me, whatever direction it is taking me. And I just take it like one day at a time, one paragraph at a time, not planning too much.
Yeah, and let's say that maybe characters have their own life, and and they move along.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
Yes, yeah, some writers do in this way, and others they can't at all. They need to have everything planned. It's very different how from one writer to another writer work, and that's also
Yes.
amazing. And very nice part of the creativity of the person. No, how this move. Yeah, it is nice to
It's
know.
just, it's just how some people work. I know what you're talking about, because there are some writers who like to have like every detail in front of their eyes. I just feel like that's too restrictive in a way. It's like, you can't see outside of that, I don't think I will ever do that, but then I don't know, really, you can't ever say.
It's
Creativity is all about, tapping into that higher energy and whatever that wants, wherever it wants to go.
Yeah, maybe you don't have this problem, but any trick to face the blank page?
I just write. So many times I struggle. Sometimes, I just sit and I just keep looking at it. And I'm like, I have no freaking idea what I want to write today. But then sometimes it's like I have struggled on like just one paragraph for 1.5 months to 2 months. Sometimes even
Oh,
that happens. It's so bad. Like I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm wasting my life. You have so many insecurities and fears, and you doubt yourself, but somehow you have to keep going, and you're like, okay, maybe this doesn't work, but if I write this whole page, maybe this will go somewhere. And you somehow you push yourself, and one fine day you have the whole book complete in front of you, and then it's like, I have no idea how I did this, but yay, I did it.
yeah. Yes, I understand when you are facing that moment is complicated. Maybe that's why some people prefer to have everything very well planned. So
Yes, yes.
maybe, 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 but definitely it's not for me to have that plan. Also,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
I
you would see that because you are an artist as well. And for an artist, it's so important to tap into that higher energy. You can't really say what's going to happen next.
Yeah,
You
move with
never.
the flow, move with the flow. Yeah. While writing or even when I'm creating a choreography, the same happened to me, no? I teach students how to make choreographies, and I teach them how to cut the songs, how to which inspiration, which means this musical instrument, or these other things. So what can you do with your body? And I explain in detail. But then when it comes to me, I go with the flow. Yeah, so but it's just to know that you have some tricks, so you can feel, if you don't feel just secure of moving with the flow as I'm doing, maybe you can just catch these ideas for feeling more secure, and feel that you are moving on, no, this, because sometimes it can get a little bit frustrating.
The thing is that you always want to be in control of the whole process, but it's so difficult because you know your words, you know your sentences, you know everything, and yet sometimes nothing just comes out of you and you feel so
Yeah,
useless.
yeah. Yeah, I think also maybe if you have something very well programmed, very well planned, maybe the characters doesn't want that. Because as soon as they start moving, they have their own personality, and you are building their own personality, and they start moving along and notice, no, this is not going to happen now. Maybe later, but not now.
Yes,
No.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's great, and that's one of the most funny parts of writing or making any artistic activity. Know how the work is evolving while you are moving. That's, I think that's why
Yes,
the artists are so passionate about their
yes,
jobs. Mm,
yes, absolutely.
yes, and talking in the same line, no, that we are doing now. Have you changed any ending after writing it?
Yes. For so when I was writing in my flow, I gave my novel seconds later an ending which I think readers would have expected, and so many of my readers have come back to me telling me that the ending was not what they were thinking about. So I wrote the ending twice, and what happened was I wrote it like the way I thought, the story would end. But somehow my novel got rejected. And I realized that something was wrong. And I said, okay, let me see what I can do with the ending. And I changed the ending. And what came through, whatever, maybe what you said was right. Your characters don't really care what you think. So maybe, it was really not in my hands to decide what to do with the characters. They had a voice of their own, and they just dictated, this is what you have to do with us. And I wrote the ending again. So yeah, I
Yeah.
changed the ending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
Oh
people
God.
struggle a lot with the endings. I've seen people struggling a lot with certain plot points, and especially endings are like, you want to leave the reader with a sense of satisfaction, like, they have finished the book. And somehow that is very tricky. It's not easy to get there.
Yeah. I was thinking in a show that I made long time ago. We are still producing because pandemic cut us on the
Mhm,
middle, and it
mhm,
is called Oriental Painter. And it was very important for me, this project, because as dance, it's very difficult to know what people is thinking about the plot, because
mhm,
everything is about movement, so maybe they
mhm,
understand another thing.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
when we when we presented this show, what happened was the people got all the people understood the plot, but the end was like open end. The people didn't know what it was. Every person was thinking differently, so that was very funny. And it reminds me how Umberto Eco, maybe you know this author, has a open work, is obra abierta in Spanish, maybe, yeah, open work, it can be in English. And he's talking about how the reader or the person that is watching a painting or a show or something, they
Mm.
interprets the what is they are looking, what they are reading. And it is very interesting how every person have their own opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it
They
is part.
the thing is that I think everybody has a different way of looking at your work. So I think for some people, my ending resonated, and others found it like a bit like different to what they were thinking, but still, it was nice. So I have got mixed response for the ending, which is fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
however you
interesting. So you have people that helps you, know, to see how the work looks when you finish. You have some people that helps you maybe to correcting, or do you have that?
no, I at the moment I have two people who I work with. So one is my literary agent, and my literary agency is the Book Bakers, and the head is Sohail Mathur. So of course he's the one who gives me suggestion and advice, and of course the publishing house. I work with the editor, and she was also like like for this book she was suggesting like these are the changes that you could make. So somewhere, I mean, not the whole thing, but just bits and pieces if something is not resonating with you. Aside that, of course, I had like my one or two friends also read the book and they suggested a few changes, but I don't listen to everybody because after all,
Hmm.
it's your own voice that has to come through.
Yeah.
And if yeah, and it has to be your original voice. You can't have too many people co-creating the whole thing because otherwise it's like a
Yes.
we have a dish in India called khichdi. So it will
Hmm.
be like too many cooks will spoil it. So
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I was thinking, especially in correcting the way of writing. Some authors, they prefer to have everything by themselves, but
no, and
then professional.
of course some help is also provided by a lot of help, in
Yeah,
fact, from the publishing house as well. Yes,
that's
and
good.
my
That's good.
literary agency. Yes.
Yeah. So, what writer do you consider was that has influenced you in your work as an author?
So many. I love reading books, Sarah. I love reading, and for me, like one of my favorites is Jane Austen, and I love her works. And Pride and
Uh-huh.
Prejudice is my favorite. Like that's one book I would like to take it to my grave, actually. And then I have. Yeah, I have certain grave books, I will make a list of those. But there are just so many. I think how I read is I just allow a book to come into my energy field and I can feel it pulsating in my energy field and I just pick it up and I just go through it and somehow I just fall in love with the book, with the writer. And so I love just so many writers. There's so many. And I would say one person who has influenced me is certainly Jane Austen, and her book Pride and Prejudice is my favorite for sure.
Okay, so that's your favorite book. And do you have any book that you return time to time to reread again?
I read there are some books but I read a lot of mind body spirit books as well, so I keep returning to them again and again. There is one by Tosha Silver that I go to again and again, change me prayers. It's all about connecting with the higher divine and asking the divine for help and inviting divine's help in your life and all that. So I read a lot of books, and I sometimes I read like really like I have those guilty pleasures also, like books that nobody would look at, but I read them again and again because somehow you find such a connect with the characters and with the story that you want to go back to it again and again. And you want to read. It is trashy. It is like those chips, that fish and chips, but then you just love it. And you don't want to show it to anybody. So I have a collection of those books as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think reading is very important for writing, and
Yes.
I think most of the writers are very good readers.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, although at some point you have to stop reading for writing, otherwise you will never, you will never
So
start.
how I work is, Sarah, I work during the day, so I write during the day, and evening, like maybe an hour or 2 hours, I read every day. So I just love to take a book to my bed, and I just go through that, and till the and I have some sleep books also. So there are days when I don't get sleep, and I have some books like that would put me to sleep, and I'm like.
That they are also accomplishing a good mission, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you had to choose a character, a fictional character from a book to sit down and chat for a while, who would you choose?
I would definitely choose. Why not? I mean, why not Harry Potter? Why not Dumbledore? Why not Bilbo
Oh.
Baggins? Yeah, I know everybody. So let's say everybody in the world knows about them. So wouldn't you really like to sit with them and have a cup of coffee and you'd be like, okay, man, can you show me some magic tricks or something? Can you teach me magic? Or I would like to maybe sit with one of the characters from Lord of the Rings, maybe Bilbo Baggins or Frodo Baggins. Those fantasy characters are just so amazing.
Yeah,
So,
and we could ask them also to take us to their world.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
to have a walk.
Yes, absolutely.
That would be
Absolutely.
also nice. How do you think the publishing scene is for as many authors as there are or want to publish? Or do you feel people is getting complicated to have their works published?
I think the market as of now is very conducive. And if you want to get a book published, I think it's not that difficult. But I think authors, the problem is that they start worrying about these things pretty early. I work with a literary agency called the Book Bakers in India, and they represent a lot of authors. They represent some 400, 500 authors in India. So, and they take once they take your manuscript, they work through it. They advise you, give you suggestions and all that, and then they submit. They connect your work to a publisher, whoever is right. I think there are way the market is really open. There are a lot of opportunities to get your work published. But first thing is that for you to complete the work. So, as writers, I think all of us, not just me, I'm talking about all of us, I think we get very impatient. We have just one chapter or two chapters ready, and we immediately start thinking who's going to publish it. Writing a book may take a lot of time. So, first you finish the project, and then you start looking at submission and who would be interested in reading it or publishing it or whatever. And of course, if nobody takes it, you can obviously publish it on Amazon as well. You
Yeah,
and
that's good.
a lot of
Yeah.
my friends are doing self-publishing as well, and they're doing very well. Some of them are doing very well. Of course, you have to think like an entrepreneur. You have to market your book. You have to take it to the readers and all that. But yeah, if you can do that, why not?
Yeah. And could you give some advice to new writers?
Sure. I think the first advice would be that, writing is as tough or as easy as you make of it. So good attitude is very important for a writer. And then another thing that they have to remember is that writing is a lonely profession. For you have to sit just with yourself for long hours. There's nobody. You can't have 10 people sitting in your room, and you can't be talking to everybody and just writing. So you have to mentally prepare yourself for that. And yes, and I think it's not going to be easy every day. So you have to, sometimes you would find yourself struggling. Sometimes it's just six words down, and a month may pass where you are not able to just tap into that creative force or creative energy, and you have to still be patient with it. Sometimes, you have your work complete, and you can't find a publisher for it, and you face a lot of rejection. I think it demands a lot of patience and perseverance. So if you so I think when we start on that journey, we don't quite realize, that these are the things that are needed. But as you go along, these things help you. Patience, perseverance, and hard work and integrity. Don't copy somebody's work. Be original. Even if you have influences, have your own voice. Original voice. If you have a voice of your own, it really conveys something to the reader. So a reader is looking for a good story, not like you to impress that person. So everybody, and it is hard work. Don't forget that. So these are a
Yeah.
few things you need to remember.
Yeah, they are very useful because especially patient, I think it's required while writing, just in the process, and also as you are saying, then as looking for some publisher for showing your work, because finally the person want to be read and want to share what their ideas were, and that. But this is one of the parts that are important, but not so glad. But
I
obviously,
think also you need to have certain amount of confidence in yourself, because writers, they're also scared about their language or their expression or their story or their plot or their characters. I think you need to just get down to it. You need to just write it and have certain amount of confidence in your writing. Or maybe you can show your work to somebody who might be able to guide you in a certain way, and maybe they might be able to tell you like what all you are lacking in your work. So I think
yeah.
that might also help.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vani, for being with us today. We are wishing you all the best with your book, Seconds
Thank you.
Later. Yeah.
Thank you
Uh,
so much for having me on Transcontinental Times.
Yeah, it was amazing to have you here with us and waiting for more books. Maybe you have your next idea just flying in your mind. So we are very very excited about reading Seconds Later and next stories that you are going to tell us. Let's see what it is about, fiction
Thank you.
or who knows.
Who
So
knows?
that's that's all for now. So see you in the next chapter in Transcontinental Times. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you.